Time now is 7:20. Something tells me that the outside broadcast we're going to go to now is going to be slightly scuppered because of the basic fact that it's dark, because we're talking about bird watching and spotting birds. It is the biggest wildlife survey of its kind on the planet. This weekend, people are being encouraged to do their bit and get out there and see what they can see in their garden. The RSPB's annual Big Garden Birdwatch.
Yeah, but there's one man who will not be scuppered, who will not have any barriers put on his way.
In terms of enthusiasm, yes.
Enthusiasm or the time of day. It is our climate editor, Justin Rowlatt, who's at Newport Wetlands for us this morning. And there's a bit of light there. I see they've got some light on you, Justin. Is that helping you, with your twitching?
Well, we've thrown some light, but the birds are beginning to wake up. Now, we can hear a robin and we can hear a blackbird. See if you can hear this. Do you hear that?
Yes, we just heard that.
A little tweet.
Good. So the birds are beginning to wake up, but you're right, it is a little bit early for this. So look, let me tell you what this garden bird watch involves. And I've got Liv Davies here. You're a very keen birder, aren't you? What do you need to do the garden bird watch?
So it's basically just take an hour out of your day to sit and watch the birds and note down what birds you see within that hour.
And you can get the details on the RSPB website. But you live just near here in South Wales, don't you? And you see all sorts of birds in your garden. What birds have you got?
Well, so I have not much variety, but I get a lot of house sparrows. I've got a dunnock, 2 blue tits, a coal tit, and some jackdaws as well.
But you know the individual birds in your garden?
Well, yeah, because I watch them every day, so I get used to seeing them, and new visitors I'm quite surprised by.
And they kind of have stories, don't they? Because you were saying the jackdaws mate for life.
Well, yeah, so I have 2 jackdaws who are mates who live on the chimney opposite. So I recognise them because of how they look, and I'm always keeping an eye on them.
That's amazing. And the sparrows are interesting because we don't get, sparrow was the London bird. We don't get sparrows in London anymore.
Well, they've seen a huge decline, so I'm not really surprised that they're not in London anymore, so I do feel quite lucky to have them in my garden.
You're very lucky. I love that you know all your individual birds. Thank you very much indeed, Liv. And that understanding the decline, understanding what's happening to Britain's birds is what the Garden Bird Watch is all about. Beccy Speight, you're the CEO of the RSPB. What does the RSPB get from this massive survey?
Well, it's a massive citizen science survey, and what it does is it tells us what's happening to our most common birds. So the birds that we see in our gardens, in our parks, and because it's been going on for a long time, it's been going on for 44 years now, actually we can see the trends over time. We can see what's happening to those birds over a period of time, and that all contributes to our understanding of what's happening to the UK's birds overall.
Let's just give people a sense of scale, because it is huge. I think in 2021 you had 1.1 million people doing this, and I think last year it was more like 700,000, but we're talking hundreds of thousands of people engaging with nature, counting birds. What does it tell us about what's happening to British birds? We heard about the sparrow there, which has suffered this terrible decline in population, hasn't it?
Yeah, so sparrows have, over the last few years, always been number one. We saw 1.7 million of them last year, I think. But actually, they've declined by about 50% over the period we've been doing Big Garden Bird Watch. And that's for a number of reasons, we think. But actually, now they're starting, we hope, to maybe come back a bit. So in Wales, Liv was talking about what she sees in her garden. In Wales, they seem to be doing okay at the moment. In Scotland, so fingers crossed. It's all about kind of, have they got enough food to eat? Is the habitat right for them? And actually, sparrows have been affected a bit by disease, we think, as well.
But the other big loser is the song thrush. Tell us about the song thrush.
Yeah, so the song thrush, when we started doing Big Garden Bird Watch in '79, the song thrush was always featuring in the top numbers. Actually, last year it was down at number 20, might fall out of the top 20 this year. And that's really because we think, again, it's food, it's not getting the food it needs. And also, we're just kind of seeing far fewer of them just generally in our gardens as well.
But let's be clear, it is not all bad news. Some birds are really flourishing in our gardens, aren't they?
Yeah, so some birds we think are responding to what people do in their gardens. So having feeders, that suits birds like goldfinch, for example, are doing quite well. Having nesting boxes, that suits birds like the great tit, for example, which is doing quite well. So there are winners and losers, but overall our birds in the UK are not doing fantastically.
Wood pigeons are doing very well indeed, aren't they?
Yeah, they're real generalists. So they've been able to adapt to more intensive farming practices over the last 50 years. They seem to be able to adapt and really thrive in that kind of atmosphere. But all the birds that are specialists, so things like starlings, are suffering more.
And just very quickly, the cold snap is likely to affect the results this year. What birds are affected by the cold?
So the cold snap really affects those small birds. So things like wrens, things like long-tailed tits, which I love, like little acrobats. You know, it's going to affect those small birds because they have such a small weight. You know, and often they can really lose weight overnight in this cold weather. So they really benefit from some supplementary feeding.
But all things to look out for. And if you want to do the Big Garden Book Birdwatch, you don't need a garden. You can look out of your window, you can go to the park, find out how to do it on the RSPB website and get out there and start counting the birds.
Justin, what are we? Are we going to see any birds with you there later? What can you promise us by way of spotting the birds later?
We hope so. We hope so. What birds would we get here?
So on these sorts of feeders, you might get kind of robins, you might get great tits, you might get blue tits. We could get all sorts on these. And then out in the reed beds, you've got all the water birds here. So we heard a water rail earlier on. So, you know, they're all the birds that you might say in waders and water birds, basically.
So a water rail, Charlie, maybe later.
Okay.
So come back and we'll see what we've got here. Could be all sorts of things.
All right, we will do. Nice to see you. Thank you very much, Justin.